Hey guys, so before we start the podcast, I just want to say that this is kind of just more of a pilot than an actual episode. We don't plan on continuing this podcast beyond the quarantine. We're just doing this to sort of keep our heads in the game while we can't work on movies and films under quarantine. Also, apologies in advance because the audio quality doesn't sound the greatest because it's hard to get audio quality equipment while you're in quarantine. This podcast is super laid back. This episode is just between myself and Phil. We're just sort of talking about random stuff. It's more of a way to get our bearings and get used to talking to each other over the interwebs. Before next episode, hopefully we have somebody like a guest to talk about something or another, to talk about, their job at film, to tell us stories about on set, or just to nerd out about equipment and such. So, yeah, there you go. I hope you enjoy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Roll Sound Podcast. My name is Shane. I'm joined here with Phil, my buddy Phil. How you doing, Phil? And
Doing all right.
I gotta say, Phil, I am so excited to get started.
Well, I guess that's going to be the last of Roll Sound podcast, but I
Not gonna
want to
lie,
say thank you to all of the fans. You've been a great support to this this big journey.
Since I texted you the idea for this podcast, I'm not gonna lie, a big part of my motivation was I really wanted an excuse to use that pun. I'm so happy I got to use it.
Well, I mean,
And
if
I have more. I have more, Phil. So if we end up doing more
we want
episodes,
to talk about is mirrorless camera, so I have to ask you, how do you take a picture of a vampire?
you use a mirrorless camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That silence you're hearing, it's going to be replaced by the sound of laughter by whoever listens to this.
It's not gonna. So before we really dive into things, because we have a list here of things to talk about, and then you have some things you said you wanted to talk about on top of that,
That's
right?
Sure.
We do want to establish that this is going to be mostly just doing this when we can or when we feel like it. I still have a day job that's essential service, so I'm still working a full-time job. And then Phil, I think you've got like online college and D&D to commit to, right? I assume.
Yeah, I like to commit more of my time to D&D. But yeah,
So,
so what's new with mirrorless cameras?
not a lot, honestly. There's news has been kind of slow lately. Okay, here's the thing: is I wrote down DSLR slash mirrorless slash cinema camera down as one of our things, and
Yeah.
I don't know how well informed you are, but one of the
I
new
mean,
things with
like,
DSLRs and mirrorless is shooting in RAW.
okay,
And there's sort of a lot of DSLR and mirrorless cameras are really sort of targeting the video market a lot to a point where they're almost just cinema cameras that take pretty good photos as well. um it's sort of something that's interesting to watch because when it comes to it, you can get a 1DX Mark III that shoots raw 5K, or I think it's 5 or 6K video raw. And it's a DSLR, like it's a pretty big DSLR, right? It's a 1DX, but it shoots raw, and the 1DX is meant to be like a sports camera, like a sports and wildlife camera, but they're just shoving all this video stuff into it, and I'm kind of wondering if it's really worth, like, who's going to buy that over a cinema camera that's the same price, that's going to have better video quality or just as good video quality with more cinema aspects. I just thought that was interesting to think about because cinema cameras in themselves are actually kind of getting cheaper, because we've got Blackmagic coming around with their pocket cinema cameras that are they're dirt cheap for cinema, and they look fantastic. They're fantastic cameras. So I don't know. I don't know how informed you are on that or what your opinion is there.
yeah, I mean, like, there's definitely like a huge like brand loyalty to like a lot of consumers have massive brand loyalty, which I don't really see the point of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like someone hands me a camera and tells me to take a photo. Like if I'm like I did a photo shoot at the Yellowstone Club. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Uh-huh.
It's just a high snooty rich. I mean they're not snooty. They're just stupid rich.
Snooty. Don't be calling your clients
I,
snooty.
yeah, I don't want to be mean.
Right. They got a lot of
just
money.
a knee-jerk reaction. They were. I mean, they seemed like really nice people.
Mm-hmm.
From the very short thing I had with them, but I had a Leica. I don't know if that camera was mirrorless, but I had a Leica camera that was with a prime 28 lens on it that was given to me. Not like a loaner a piece of equipment for free,
Mm-hmm.
and then because my camera currently is it was broken at the time, and it was Nikon D3300. Had a good range for megapixels, but it broke. So I rented a Canon 5D Mark II, and I had the Leica, and I got some really good images out of it. And like I was using two completely different branded cameras for a photo shoot.
Right.
And,
Didn't you show me those pictures?
I think so. There's the ones of like it was a new it was a new venue in the Yellowstone Club
Yeah.
for
And you had
and
that
apparently
really big wide shot with the all the lights and the stage. Yeah. Yeah. It came out really good.
Thanks. I don't know if I've been keeping my nose up for when apparently those photos will be presented through a Yamaha magazine, which I'm
Ooh.
really stoked about.
Oh.
But I don't know if that's been canceled or like put on a hiatus because of COVID and all that, because it's just devastating so many companies right now.
Yeah, it's really hurting a lot everywhere. Yeah.
But that was fun. But as far as like mirrorless cameras go, I think it's really nice to have like a camera that's affordable and giving you the opportunity to produce like high quality content.
Right, but that's the thing with the way these DSLR and mirrorless cameras are going is they'll shoot raw.
Yeah.
But they're like $10,000
raw?
cameras. No, it's raw.
Okay.
And they're like $10,000 cameras. Like, hang on, how much is the new 1DX Mark III?
I mean, being a sound guy, I think being like a partial camera guy now, I think.
Oh, okay. Sorry, no, it's not quite 10,000. It's 6,500.
That's still a fair amount of money.
Yeah, for body only, so no lens.
So, what is So I guess my two main questions to a camera like this is does it run timecode?
I don't know.
And if it does, obviously, I mean, you never want to be running timecode from the camera, but it would be nice to, like, I love jam syncing. It is so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I got like an adapter for my recorder, I've been just jam syncing when I can. And that all that means is like just syncing. You're physically syncing up the time codes with camera and sound.
I think it does.
That's nice.
That's not
and that's one of the big things,
right,
for me as a potential buyer.
Mm-hmm.
For my own projects, if I wanted to buy a camera, that would be one of my first things, because
time code.
Time code just makes things so much easier.
It does.
I mean,
it speeds up post a lot.
Oh my god, right? And then you can start focusing on like the bigger glaring issues that you had to avoid, or like say you tell yourself we'll fix it in post. You have more time to focus on that now.
Mm-hmm.
So all the sound synced, and we're moving on to editing, and then whatever is left. Making your day for night, whatever.
Yeah.
God, I really hate day for night.
They did it in 1917, which is another thing on this list.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So part of what is that city where he's running through with the flares? going
Does
through.
that count as day for night?
No, no, no,
Because
no, no,
like,
because the flare, that part was not day for night, but they had a hidden cut in there somewhere. And
okay.
it's when he goes underneath in with the lady,
Is it part?
and he comes back
Okay.
out. I believe when he comes back out, that's when it becomes day for night. And then when he
Okay.
jumps into the river, that's day for night as well.
Yeah. River part especially makes sense that it's day for night.
Right. So,
Done very
anyway,
well because it like
it was
that's
done
the
by
thing. It
professionals,
because
and it was shot on an Alexa LF, Alexa Mini LF. So,
that and we have little hints that the sun is rising. So the blue purplish hue you'll
hmm
see in day for nights, uh, like will it'll be okay because like your unconscious thought is like, oh, the sun's rising, so it's a little bit blue. Um, but there's a show, The Terror, which for acting is phenomenal. It's a
hmm
great show. Um, the composer made was literally like a month after he wrote that score to that film, that show, he died. So it's the last
oh really?
soundtrack, the last score he made before he died, and it's just horrifying.
Oh
The
really?
score itself. um,
Horrifying is in like bad, or horrifying is in
oh,
like actually
horrifying in a
scary?
good.
Okay, okay.
It's a the show The Terror is about kind of a it's not really a it's like a supernaturalist take on the two missing ships. Like there are two missing ships in 1848 um, that were designated to find the Atlantic Passage or something like that. It's like
hmm
the Northwest Passage, essentially a trade route passage that would connect England to China, making
Oh,
trade
okay.
routes a lot faster. Um, essentially going through Antarctica. And both of these ships got locked in the ice and the crew got locked in the ice for about 4 years, and they were just living
Fascinating.
in Antarctic for 4 years, and
Huh.
eventually,
Hang on, is this based
eventually
off
they
like a real story, or is this?
it's based on a real story.
Oh,
This what I'm describing now currently is based on a real story. They they decide to the whole crew leaves, and it was only discovered like what happened to this crew only like it's like 50 years ago or something like that. But and they just found the ship like maybe 7 years ago, um, which is in the bottom of the ocean right now. But uh, they the crew leaves the ship and tries to walk to the nearest port, which is like 300 miles away. Um, but they have enough food to supply them. I don't want to give away, but then it starts leading into a very supernaturalist uh, like element to the story. So it's a realistic
hmm
look on what happened, but it has a lot of heavy supernatural elements within it.
okay.
Um, the reason how do we get to here? We're
We
talking
were
about
talking about night for day.
talking about day for night, yeah, or night for day,
Day for night. Sorry, I said it wrong.
day for night. The climax of this there's a fight scene that goes on, and it pisses me off because they shoot day for night,
Uh,
um, and it looks horrible. It really does.
right.
It pisses me off because the acting's great, the story is very interesting, and the plot and the characters and everything about it's really fun, except for that one scene, and it's really painful because it's like it truly is the climax of the film. It's like the real big heavy hitting moment,
hmm
um, where a lot of information is gained and a lot of characters are lost. So
Okay, so
um,
we talked about, so for people listening, we're planning on and I'll tie this back into the conversation in a second, but we're planning on watching a short film every week and then talking about it. So this week we're not going to talk about a short film. We're just going to tell you what we're going to watch, and then we'll talk about it next week. And the short film that I picked out, um, look at the colors. Look at the color
yeah,
grading, because it's so bad.
it is. Oh, it is bad.
It's so
Okay,
bad. Um,
okay,
it actually hurts. And the first time I watched this film, I didn't know. enough. So I just thought this was like a really good film, but the more I watch, the more bullshit student-y kind of film it kind of feels to me.
Okay.
But the colors, when I first started learning about color grading, I went back and watched that short film, and my God, it hurts to watch.
Okay.
So I mean, there's scenes that are like kind of okay, but like it goes from like scenes where it looks almost flat to scenes that are way too contrasty and way too yellow. There's a lot of yellow.
I feel like I'm naturally going to disagree with you, whatever the result of the movie is.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
I think I'm
It's
just
the yellow scenes. I don't. Here's the thing: is I know there's at least one scene that you're gonna have to agree with me on. There's no way
okay.
you're not gonna agree with me.
Okay.
Like okay, so maybe I'm being a little bit harsh because like some of it is pretty alright, but you'll just have to watch it, and we'll talk about it next week. But
Yep.
anyways, color is important, friends, in film.
Yeah,
If it's not colored right, it really does affect the
I don't know.
feel.
I don't know what you're talking about. Just color, man. Film is a auditory medium. Auditory medium.
Ah, yes. No, the picture doesn't matter at all.
Yeah,
It's
not
all
really.
about the audio. It's practically just a radio play with visual aid.
That's what I've been telling people for years.
The picture
They
is
will
just to help um, deaf people
motivate.
understand the story.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like subtitles for a radio play.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, what do you? Yes. So what's this Bill Gates and Daily Show thing?
Okay, so
Talk,
The Daily
talk
Show. So have you seen The Daily Show with Trevor Noah before?
So I mean, I have, but I stopped like practically 3 months after he began. Um,
Okay.
I don't like his comedy style. I'm not trying to strike him as a person.
Right.
Um,
Well,
I
and
think
I know for
I
a
just,
fact there's a lot of people who, because it's a political comedy show, right? So like, there's people who
but
don't agree with it.
I just liked Jon Stewart's comedy style better.
Yeah,
Trevor Noah does a
Jon
lot
Stewart
more.
is pretty great.
Just too many. Trevor Noah does too many impressions, or like he does a lot of Trump impressions. Which I'm not trying to defend Trump, but I'm also saying
Right.
like I am so tired of Trump impressions and people thinking that they're like they're really good.
I don't know,
Trump is
man. They're
probably
pretty
the
funny.
easiest person. Trump is the easiest person to impersonate. That's
That
hacky
is that
impersonation.
is that is true. Okay. Politics aside, because that's not what this is about, right?
Sure,
Bill Gates, because everyone's stuck in quarantine right now. The Daily Show is basically just Trevor Noah sitting in his living room with a webcam, right? And it
yeah,
looks, kind of. I mean, it doesn't look bad. Like he's got like enough light coming through his window, and it's like a high quality webcam or whatever. Maybe it's even a DSLR, but like nothing's set up to look anything sort of fancy. Um, but Bill Gates went on because Bill Gates has done something with pandemics in the past and is doing something now and yada yada yada. So he came on, and this dude has a fucking study, and in his study he's got, it looks like a fucking documentary style film setup. Like the lighting's fucking gorgeous. He's absolutely talking to Trevor through a DSLR with like f2.8 or something, or t whatever. And sorry, I didn't want to do the math to see to figure that out. Because there is no math. That's not how that works. Uh but it looked beautiful. If you
So
just want to look it up real quick, and you don't have to watch it, just
is it just your problem? Or like, okay? So like, does it bother you that it looks good?
no. Does this guy have like a documentary setup just like in his study?
I mean, he has so much money, but
Yeah, but like, look, if I were a millionaire, but I was not interested in film at all, I wouldn't just fucking have
oh
like
yeah, yeah,
nice
yeah.
giant
I,
ass soft fuck. Like you see, do you see
I,
what I'm talking about?
I see what you mean.
It's so it's
What I
so
assume.
beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's real nice. Speaking of which, there's a very similar look. Yeah, I mean it's not.
I guess
It's just
the
soft light.
lighting's, well, I just looked at, I'm looking
It's
at it
just soft
now.
lighting on them.
The light.
It's nothing fancy.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at it now, and I can tell that the light's like just above his head because like the
Yeah,
shadows of his glasses are not great. So
look at
I guess it's not
look
as
at
great as I remembered it, but
and like the color temperature is different from like the you can see the light impacting the bookshelf behind him,
mhm.
but not the bookshelf to the left of him, or
Right.
let's call it camera left of him. Like it has like a greener color balance to it, while the one on the right is like a little bit more
I think that's just the general.
like has a
Mm,
little bit of yellow and magenta to it.
I don't know. This might be one of those
Um,
effects. Oh no,
no,
you're
I
right.
don't think
Never
so.
mind. I was
The
gonna say it might be one of those effects where like the color of the spines of the books sort of give you like one of those feelings that the color is different than it is. You know what I mean? Have you seen those where there's like
there
the
is
weird there's the chessboard with the shadow and then it's like, oh,
yeah,
this white square here inside the shadow is the same color as the dark square outside the shadow
yeah.
or whatever, and it's all trippy. But no, I think you're
There is
right.
a documentary. There is a documentary I watched last night. It was like a very small documentary, and it's about the first lead singer for the Black Eyed Peas.
Mm-hmm.
And that she has a really nice, like, it's a close up. It's a very big close up, but she's I believe her aperture to whatever camera she's using is opened up all the way, so it makes everything in the background look just spirally blurry. I'm gonna see if I can.
Spirally blurry. Sorry, were they using like old vintage lenses and stuff? Because they have really spirally broke out. It's really
No
beautiful.
way of knowing.
Um,
But I will. I I want to see it like she cuts back. I think what it is it's just a wide angle lens. She's really close, and her aperture is up all the way. And she's her aperture is open all the way. So it's like the title of the document, little doc. It's like a New York Times documentary. It's called
mhm.
"I Was in the Black Eyed Peas, Then I Quit."
Oh,
Um,
ooh, it's fascinating.
what's because she talks about, and I don't want to spoil what the documentary is about, but she talks about
But
like her
it
like
sounds like someone in the Black Eyed Peas that then quit. Just
that
if I had to
obviously,
guess.
but it's like there's more to the story than just like she fell out of love with the music. Um, it was like it's not one of like those falling out stories. It's kind of like you guys are going this way. I'm going to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, kind of that circumstance.
Right.
Um, but no, it's a good document. It's a little 10-minute documentary. It's pretty fun.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, I mean, we can.
but yeah,
Documentaries is something I didn't think about, but we could do short documentaries too, for short films at some point
I mean,
that we
there's
watch.
a handful of documentaries that, not documentaries, short. There's one short film has always been my favorite short film of all time, because it's so simple.
The Eagles
And
are turning people into horses.
that's a feature-length film that needs to be recognized for true beauty.
That's not a
Uh,
feature-length film at all.
I know, but it's right. If you want to talk about eagles or turning people into horses, um, just a phenomenal film, true auteurism right there. Uh,
It
but
is. It is pretty
I just
clever.
love it.
It's not well
I
shot,
just love it
but
because
it's just funny.
obviously it's. I mean, they literally had like one like the people who made it. They have a little sketch comedy group called Britannic.
Mm-hmm.
I think these guys are just absolutely hilarious, and they they were talking about their like behind the scenes of how they came up with the story, and it's the guy's senior film, and he just has no. I think he really had no idea what he wanted, a story he wanted to tell, but it was his job to like make a movie, and so he came up with this idea, and his professor's like, what is going through your head right now, man? And then like they reworked it to like make it fit like a simple narrative where it's a guy who's in a relationship that's moving too fast, so he devises a plan to get the girl to run away from him by pretending that.
Spoilers.
I mean, like
Spoilers.
eagles are turning people into horses, and I'm not spoiling the biggest part of the film, which is
Yeah,
just
but
hilarious.
still. Yeah, don't go too far into the plot.
I mean,
We might have to make that one of our short films at some point.
potato
But I kind of want to go for films that one or either of us haven't seen before too.
Yeah.
Which another thing is as we talk about these, if people that are listening, have short films they want us to talk about too, they can send those in, and we can, I'll
Yeah.
make a Twitter and a SoundCloud and all that stuff, just so that people can do that. But yeah.
So you wanna? What was a thing? Or just very so. Explain the troll. We can dive into like how currently messed up the industry is. I mean,
Yeah.
but like, what's up with Trolls and World Tour?
Okay, so the last thing on our list that we haven't really touched upon at all is Trolls World Tour. And I know we mentioned 1917, but we didn't really get too much into it, but we can talk about that if you want. I don't know. But Trolls World Tour. Okay, so I was Googling news in the film world, and there's absolutely nothing. So this is like what everyone's talking about right now. And they're saying that the Trolls World Tour is going to change cinema history, right? And I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with the film itself. It's their marketing scheme. So because you can't go to a movie theater and watch it, a lot of what Disney and everybody else is doing is they're either postponing the premiere of their movies so that they can premiere it when the pandemic's over, or they're going straight to streaming. Like they'll add it to their free streaming service like Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever it is. Trolls World Tour, though, is going straight to digital rental, which is not new either. And I don't quite get why people are talking about it so much. But it's...
Didn't 20th Century Fox do the same thing? Where they released all of their, like, I mean, I watched, I don't know if it's 20th Century Fox, but like I watched the new Jane Austen movie that came out a couple.
Oh really?
Came out a couple weeks, months ago.
Can I
really good, amazing. I feel like you can. I feel like I watched that on Vudu, which is.
Oh, okay.
Are you familiar with Vudu?
I've heard of it.
It's like it's not. It's difficult.
Okay.
It's like it's like Apple. I would say it's like Apple TV, really. I mean, there are areas where some stuff's free, but the other stuff you have to pay like $2.99 to rent it for like. I guess they just don't have a lot of listings on there, like what to watch for free stuff. But I watched, I think it was called Emma, and I highly recommend that movie because. Pretty much every Jane Austen movie that's been made has been just phenomenal. Right. But this one's like Wes Anderson meets Jane Austen.
Yeah, it was directed by Wes. It's the new Wes Anderson, right?
Was it really?
Yeah, I thought it was.
I didn't.
I'm pretty sure it was directed by Wes Anderson, wasn't it?
I'm looking that up right now. I didn't think it was. It didn't feel exactly like a Wes Anderson. Autumn D. Wilde.
Oh, okay.
No, but it does feel like a. It's not like a. It has a similar
that's
like.
Right. French Dispatch is the new Wes Anderson movie that's in the works.
Like there's. It has the same. It's not like copying Wes Anderson. It's like more or less emulating, where like you're taking the fun. Facets. Some fun facets of Wes Anderson.
Do you know what kind of felt like a Wes Anderson movie to me? It was directed by Taika Waititi. Was Jojo Rabbit, which is a really good movie, by the way. Phenomenal movie. Everything about that movie was great.
I haven't seen it, but
it's so good. I went to go rent it on Amazon, and Amazon was like, "You can't rent this. You can only buy it." So I bought it, and then the next day it went out on rental, and I was so. But back to Trolls, because we've gotten distracted again.
Sure.
The whole thing is that it's a world premiere, or not world premiere, like it's premiering, right? But it's premiering as a rental. You have to pay for it to watch it like once, or how, I don't quite understand how they're doing it. But the rental is $20, and people are expecting it to still make a ton of money in the box office because parents need to entertain their child, and they can only watch Frozen 2 on Disney Plus so many times. Also a great movie. I
Uh,
watched that last night. I did quite enjoy it.
I mean, I don't know how Disney Plus works, but I imagine you could watch it many times.
Yeah, but the parents' sanity sake and the kids' boredom sake, they need new movies to watch. Do you know what I mean?
Sure,
So
sure.
people are expecting that Trolls 2, the World Tour, is going to be a really big movie in the air quotes box office of renting when it's premiered. Which I don't know. We'll see. I feel like there's still enough kids movies out there to keep a kid entertained for a while, but
For sure. I mean, depends on what age kid there is.
yeah, they're saying
'Cause, yeah,
people are gonna buy it, so we'll find out.
I mean, I can't remember how many times I watched the Tom and Jerry movie, but I imagine it was in the triple digits when I was a kid. Um, which highly recommend. I rediscovered that movie, the Tom and Jerry animated movie where they talk and like there's a
Um,
girl who keeps
wait,
getting like chased by like
I'm so
Cruella Deville type character.
I'm sorry. What? What is
Uh,
this?
Tom and Jerry movie
I
came out like 20 years ago.
The only Tom and Jerry movie I remember was like a Race Around the World.
Might be it. It's been like a solid few years since I've seen that movie. So
Tom and Jerry movie. What? No, this is not at all what I remember. There's like a
yeah.
pirate. What?
Oh yeah, it's a classic movie. It's right up there. Yeah, because I had this idea, I had this memory of watching a movie in my head, and I couldn't remember what film it was from. And one person mentioned it's like you're describing Tom and Jerry in the movie. I was like, oh, well, all right then.
Hey guys, so I'm just interrupting this part of the podcast to ask you guys a big favor and sort of share the podcast or like it or follow it or whatever you want to do wherever you're listening, because the more listeners and the more activity we get, the easier it's going to be to find people to get onto our podcast for that next episode, as well as the more traction we get, we may try and find Phil a better microphone. But we don't want to risk anything right now unless we really feel like people are listening and people care. So make sure to share, like it, comment, whatever. You know the deal. Everyone's heard it before. And please give us your feedback if you've got tips on how to improve. Let us know. We'd love to hear your input. Send stuff into us to talk about, whatever you'd like. Yeah. Back to the podcast.
Being a film student, you learn a lot about film history unconsciously. If someone asks you, like, describe Battleship Potemkin, I can't do that. Is that benefit? Is it going to benefit my life? Probably not, but I can. But there is one little facet of film history that just makes me laugh almost every time. But it's basically prior to 1927. Actually, I believe it was from 1919 to 1921. There was a movement in Europe. It was called the European National Movement, in which a bunch of producers, directors, writers, cinematographers from every country in Europe came together and formed a coalition to literally fight America's monopoly in the film industry. we were so powerful. I mean,
we still
our
are.
reign is about to fall. Kind of.
Yeah, it is gonna fall because like
set with China.
Well, I think that because we're kind of the last people to hit our curve. So I think that places that they have kind of like a strong film industry, like New England and stuff, that are kind of gonna not New England. What the fuck? Like Britain and like sort of Europe and India, who are sort of. I think India is actually around the same as us though in their curve. Weirdly, I don't know. But when they're going to get done with their curves earlier and they're going to start making films before us and they're going to get ahead of us again. Do you know what I'd really like to see? It would suck kind of, but like also not so much is, I would like to see France grow in the film industry again. Cause like
sure.
they used to be the people
back in the day,
and then the world wars kind of,
Yeah, exactly. But to get back to what I was saying,
right. Sorry.
So like that's good. Just like they joined this European movement, and this is but these are solely silent films because sound hadn't been invented yet, and essentially all these like great films were created. The original silent Passion of Joan of Arc film was made from this European movement. So this goes on for a little while, and Europe has their little happy reign. It's all merry, and then America responds by inventing sound in 1927. I just think that's hilarious because America's response to a unified coalition of all of Europe to fight America's powerful industry is making the most devastating contribution to filmmaking that has devastated the entire industry. Like you
have
think about
you
actors.
seen The Artist? It came out in like
Exactly what I'm
2012. Yeah.
Exactly what I'm getting at. Like the little feather. The sound effect of a feather dropping is a bombshell.
Yeah.
Because like actors can't be the same way anymore. They have to act in a whole different
That is
format.
what it was called, right? The Artist, that black and white movie that was made like pretty recently, that was about a failed actor because his voice didn't sound good for.
Exactly. Yeah. That was
It's just like the ending because it's like this tiny little like he's this big man. He's like, "Hey, hello guys." Oh,
and like it's not just speaking. It's about how you speak, because like film isn't a stage play.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're transitioning into something similar to a stage play where they can hear you, then you gotta wonder, like how do you transform acting? So like, I just think it's just hilarious that America responded in the most devastating way possible.
Yeah,
and like I know that they were probably not deliberately trying to fight Europe. Maybe a little bit, but I just think it's funny. Like within like 3 or 4 years later, America comes out with a heavy hitting device that messes up everything.
Right. Speaking of talkies and old film days in Europe and stuff, one of my favorite bits of history is Hitler was a big fan of Charlie Chaplin, right? That's where he got his mustache. Really? Yeah. So Hitler's mustache was inspired by Charlie Chaplin. And when Charlie Chaplin heard about it, that's when he made the movie The Great Dictator. Have you ever seen that movie?
Here's the thing, and it's kind of sad. This is the kind of like thing that people might get angry for, but like I've never seen that movie. But I've always
such a good movie.
Would have always needed like a moments of inspiration. I would always go to that like speech because that's just a really powerful speech.
It's a really powerful speech. I've got on Spotify. I've got that speech, but like with like epic music behind it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's a really good movie, and essentially he made that entire movie just to say "fuck you" to Hitler.
How'd you feel about 1917? Let's talk about that.
So 1917 changed my life, right? And I need to go watch Birdman because supposedly there's a lot of continuous shots in that as well. But just knowing the way things work and the way things go together, and knowing the ins and outs of how film work, especially cameras and how to move a camera, it's kind of insane. Like they built like miles and miles. I want to say it was like 2 miles of trenches. Just to...
Did you see the movie set meme of
no
1917?
Was it?
Man, it was hilarious. It was like an extra posted on movie set memes of 1917. It was a picture of the last shot of 1917.
Oh, right, and they're
captions.
Yeah.
We had it was like captions like, we had no idea they were going to end there. We were using that tree as an outhouse.
Yeah, that was all where all the crew and extras and stuff were going to pee, and they had no idea that that was where they were going to end the show.
I will say, like, 1917 is a good movie.
Mm-hmm. It is.
But looking back on it, to say the movie is like a perfectly like Birdman is a better one-shot film than 1917.
See, I need to watch it.
Hands down.
I don't know. Yeah. But
because I'll explain just real quickly, and I'll mostly just talk about 1917. There is a cut. There's a massive cut in 1917.
Yeah, I was really disappointed in that. actually. But I mean, like, I get why they did it.
If you want to claim yourself as, if you want to claim your film as, this film has the illusion of no cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have a goddamn cut in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, like,
But
I get it kind of, because, like, it's like, then it's jarring, and that really sort of, assists the point of the scene, but...
Exactly. It is a very motivated cut.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's a bad cut. It's just like, you shouldn't have an obvious cut in there if you want it to be, if you want it to feel like it's a one-shot movie.
Right.
Another thing, I mean, the score to 1917 was amazing. The sound effects, the whole like world to it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some like glaring issues, and it was only really when my family, when I talked about this with my family, it was like one of the main characters is like kind of tubby,
Mm-hmm.
and it's World War I. Everybody was starving in that war. Like no one. Yeah,
That's a fair point,
like,
I guess.
Like, you shouldn't cast someone who's mildly tubby if their character is basically anorexic.
Right. The acting though was great though. I think he was still a great actor. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think out of everything, because there's a lot of people who don't fit the roles. Scarlett Johansson is not Japanese or whatever, but I think out of all the things, I would let go of, I would let that one go. I think that casting decision is probably all right in the grand scheme of things.
Honestly, I feel like here's the thing. Don't yell at me about this, but hear me out.
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson makes more sense of a role in Ghost in a Shell than that character does, than the actor who played that character in 1917. Because Ghost in the Shell,
but okay.
Ghost in the Shell has nothing to do with it about a Japanese woman. Ghost in the Shell is a story about a literal brain that's inside the body of a android. The whole show has always been about not having a true sense of identity. So I had I mean, I didn't see Ghost in the Shell movie,
right?
Because I'm not a huge fan of live action interpretations of anime movies.
Well, and I mean, and just for the record, that was just an example of just Hollywood. We don't need to talk about like the whole whitewashing bullshit, but
I mean that's been talked to death. But
yeah.
I just want to state that like Ghost in a Shell is a very is a bad example when stating that whitewashing. A good example is Aliens 2, where one of the girls, like there is an actress, the big brassy Puerto Rican lady in Aliens is played by like an Irish woman.
Actually, I don't remember. I'm gonna have to go look.
That's a better example of Hollywood whitewashing.
Okay. But point being is that to me, I don't have a problem with that casting. I would pick better acting over such in my opinion, small difference. I would go with acting any day.
I would, I would switch. The actor who played Rob Stark. I would give, because the actor who played the guy's brother at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'd flip the roles. I'd have that actor play the supporting second character who dies. Spoilers.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one. I think the acting was phenomenal how it was, and
sure, but like
you can't just switch him out with another actor because they're not gonna act.
Sure, but I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones, but the actor who played the brother is Robb Stark. The character in Game of Thrones, and he has miles of range, and like I would be happy to cast that act. I'm trying to remember his name.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to go watch Game of Thrones because I haven't.
The actor who plays Robb Stark. Basically, season I say 1 through 5 is probably the best.
Well, I couldn't get through season 1. It's so slow.
That's. I mean, I was the same way for a while. I told myself one time, like, this is the first episode. I told myself, like, okay, if this is really slow and boring, if nothing else happens in like 5 minutes, I'm gonna watch something else. That was the scene where a dead White Walker child comes and kills an entire like brigade of uh like a brigade of watchmen, and it's just horrifying. It's like, okay, I'm addicted to this show now.
Okay, so I think we'll end it there.
Yeah.
So next week we're
Yeah.
gonna watch what is it called? My Old Man is the short film, and we're gonna talk about it. Oh, Your Old Man.
Old
We're
Man.
gonna talk about that. I'm gonna reach out to some people and see if we can get some industry professionals so we can talk to them. This is sort of, I guess this is like our pilot episode.
Sure.
Just to sort of talk and get used to how things work. And then next week, hopefully, we'll have somebody to interview, and we'll have a short film to talk about, and it'll be good. It'll be fun. So, and that'll be out whenever. We don't know. We have no plan right now.
Yeah.
So I'll have to set up like a Twitter
Get around to it.
and stuff for people. So wherever you're listening, I'll have whatever information in the description for you as well. So there you go.
All right.
Alrighty.
I guess that ends it.
Yeah.